here we are, and welcome to a Y2K episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast, because that's sort of our theme. We'll explain it a little more when we get to it. But in the meantime, starting with Lily, because she's got the parents.
The rent.
She's got the rents. The rents and all of their gray hair are in Spain. They flew directly towards the storm of the virus. Everybody else is flying away. Mom and Dad are upgrading to first class because there's no one on the plane.
There's no one on the plane. They just gave those seats for free. I'm really glad they're here. I haven't seen them in a long time, so.
And they're probably not going to be able to leave.
That's
it's
so
your
exciting.
dream come
true.
Like,
I brought all my prescriptions. I never have to leave. And Mom's like, yes, we do, and we are. So Mom doesn't like to stay put very long.
Yeah, but then Shai, you threatened that she can't, she can come home, but just not see anyone.
Not me. I'll see her, but anyways. We'll see where we are in a month.
A few weeks. But no, they're great. They're the white hairs bobbing along and enjoying some grandkid time.
Since Mom went gray, do you sense a certain personality, not change as much as a liberation that's going on?
I will say that she keeps saying that she can shower whenever she wants, or get into a pool whenever she wants, or basically get wet whenever she wants. She can go in the ocean whenever she wants. She was being like, well, I don't have a problem now that my hair is short. And I was like, I didn't have a problem before. I just wet my hair. But now she seems very free to bathe. Seems to be the theme. So I guess before she really didn't like to get her hair wet.
Yeah, I remember her talking about that, but I just remember on vacation Mom's hair just looking super crazy.
Right. I was like, Mom, why don't you grow it out? She's like, let's not go too far. We both know how I would look with a lot of fuzzy hair on top. I was like, all right.
Mm-hmm. And Becky?
So they're doing great.
Becky, how are you in Berkeley?
I mean, like I said earlier, I've been worse, but I've also been a lot better. So
one of those days.
So it's just middling. So today's theme, which Becky came up with, is a theme of arbitrary rules, but ones that I think...
No, it's one very clear rule.
Think of it, it's very important, which is... But I like that you came up with these rules. This is what makes the conversation fun. We are going to talk about 90s TV shows, but we are only going to talk about a specific category of 90s TV shows, because 90s TV shows that extended beyond the 90s, like Seinfeld and Friends, yes, they are the epitome of 90s, but they are defining eras of television. We are talking about shows...
And this is not about success or not success.
Right.
There's lots of successful shows on this list. It just...
Right. We are talking about shows that were trapped in the 90s, meaning they started in the 90s and they ended in...
They never made it to Y2K.
They never made it to Y2K. And at first, I wasn't sure what we were going to find, and I think we found some...
treasure trove.
Such a rich group of television shows.
Because if you only do start in the 90s, there's just so many options that you would never have to find a lot of these randos.
Right. You'd be like Frasier. Great. Frasier went on for 3 decades.
Exactly. ER. It's like 100,000 million episodes.
And so we're going to go through... So let's just get off our chest right away the ones that are disqualified, because people are going to get excited. But we did research for this, people. One of them that started the whole conversation, The Drew Carey Show, that went 9 seasons and ended in 2004. That show went more seasons than Seinfeld. I'd like everybody to know.
Or as many. Seinfeld went 9 seasons, right?
9, 8? Whatever it was,
9, I think.
Whatever it was longer it was as long as Seinfeld.
And what's crazy about the Drew Carey Show is that, to me, when I think of that show, I think of that 1995-96 season, and it is quintessential 90s. Like, if you want a portrait of what 90s comedy was, like, the Drew Carey, it's so weird.
I know.
Like the Office comedy, like the Office humor.
That's totally
with Mimi. Was that her name?
Yeah, Mimi. Always trying to destroy him.
Right? Like, that is it's like the comic strip. What was that comic strip of the guy in the office? Dilbert and Drew Carey, to me, are like 90s, epitome of 90s.
Another one that just missed, which I know our dear friend Lanz will be sad that we missed, but she'll understand, which is Boy Meets World. It ends in 2000. Because for me, that was defining. Josh and I used to watch that after school all the time.
Sure. Well, then you have like also, like when we grew up, Full House and stuff, but that started in the 80s.
That's right. And it
doesn't
starts
count.
with an
It
80s
started in the 80s.
sensibility.
Yeah.
It starts with an
Right.
80s
The
sensibility.
hair,
Important.
like there's a
Just
lot of
the-
80s going
the-
on.
the
Dave
lessons.
Coulier.
Yeah, the types of lessons that are, and what's
Sweaters.
another one was quintessential 90s. It's funny, again, Ally McBeal ended in 2002, but it always lived in the 90s. It never left the 90s.
With the dancing
Right.
baby. Remember when
Vonda
that
Shepard? Once you have Vonda Shepard in your
Doing the
show,
theme song?
singing.
every
She
episode had a
sings the
Vonda
theme
Shepard.
song, but then at the end of every episode, they go to like the lounge where, like the piano lounge where she sings.
David E. Kelly's
As if
like,
that's a
in
thing
every
people do.
week, Vonda will sing a song.
I mean, as if that's a thing.
Or Jane Krakowski
And
would.
I think I put Third Rock from the Sun. That to me is epitome 90s.
And very
great.
cool. I love seeing Lithgow in comedy. I think John Lithgow is
a treasure.
Oh.
He is a treasure.
But Lithgow in comedy is especially amazing because we've seen him play such
and
psychos.
that barely makes that's 2001.
Right.
And that like is really in the 90s.
And
Yeah.
do you remember when that dancing baby happened on Ally McBeal and people were like, "Oh my God, the special effects in Ally McBeal are even better than Reboot." Like, everyone was freaking
first,
out about the
They
dancing
were
baby.
losing their minds.
And then, and as a great segue into our shows that actually fit the criteria, one of the ones that I think we were
I'm
all
so mad that
disappointed
this
to
doesn't
find
fit
out-
the criteria.
I mean, it blew past the date, but was the epitome of mom trusted us to watch shows that no children, well, your ages for sure, should watch.
It's kind of like you with your kids, actually.
Yeah,
You've
maybe, yeah.
passed the baton. She's passed the
NYPD
baton.
Blue. She let you all at, I don't know.
I saw Sipowitz's Tushy live with Mom. when he
Which is
the
Mom-
Franz
Mom
shows his tush
loved,
getting into the shower. I watched that live with Mom. That was a sensation in the news. The
Mom
next day.
loved Jimmy Smits. She
Oh.
loves some Jimmy
loved.
Smits.
I'm sure she still
Mom
loves him.
still loves a Jimmy Smith
Who
situation.
doesn't?
Loves a good Jimmy Smits
But
situation.
the Sipowicz Tushy, that was some real body positivity on primetime television. Dennis Franz. Okay, so let's start our journey into the shows trapped in the 90s with shows we watched with Mom. And this is one that I just started watching with my kids on the DC Universe app, if anyone's looking for an app to watch this on, which is Lois and Clark, the new Adventures of Superman, on from 1993 to 1997. Do you recall what a phenomenon this was? I feel like
Yes.
our parents...
Yes, I
maybe it was
really
on-
do remember.
Maybe it was only
When
phenomenon...
she finds out he's Superman, that was like epic.
But that's later. I'm
remember
talking
that-
about- I remember
But, like,
watching the pilot.
I remember like the first episodes. Yeah, I remember the pilot and the first few episodes.
I
And
remember
as
when
a
they switched
family,
Jimmy.
it was a huge
Jimmy
deal.
changed.
Yes, it was a huge deal that we all sat around together and we watched this show every week together. It was like the best family.
And Mom would get so
fun.
excited and she'd call it campy. You know Mom loves the show and she'd be like, it's campy. It's like a comic book.
Well, she
Also,
loved
like Terry
Dean
Hatcher
Cain.
and Dean Cain. Like, could you get better
Like
casting?
gorge,
for the
like
90s?
gorgeous.
For the 90s, no, I don't think you can get. And if you look at Lois Lane's character, now that I'm rewatching it, she was a very
Feisty
strong female journalist character.
I just remember the episode where Lois Lane and Clark Kent are working late one night at the paper, and he says he's going to go out and get them dumplings, and then he flies to China
That's the
and brings
pilot.
back dumplings. That's the pilot episode.
Yeah.
I remember that so well, and just like always craving dumplings.
Yeah, and they
I
come
mean,
in
like
the
I
big
just
steamy thing.
yeah.
And then he
I
could
thought that was the coolest move.
Oh yeah, and we'd only seen Dean Cain previously in 90210 when he was the boyfriend
Right.
the boyfriend from the Paris trip that ends up being like her dad, being like Shannon Doherty's dad when he finally reappears. And Terry Hatcher, the only thing I knew her from was as the sister in Tango and Cash. So these were not big stars who at least became big stars in suburban Montreal. I think the Agans also watched this show religiously. Like, I remember Mom and Dad talking about
I
it.
feel like a lot
Well,
of
I'm
people
positive the Pinchucks watched it because I remember at recess, like the next day, Brandon Pinchuck and I would like reenact scenes together from the previous night's episode.
And totally.
So-
So Jimmy 1
does it help
or Jimmy
how-
2?
Jimmy won.
Jimmy 1 for me.
Jimmy won.
Yeah.
Jimmy
Of
1.
course. Always.
No hate against Jimmy 2, but Jimmy 1 was really...
No, Jimmy 2 is fine.
But Jimmy
I just remember loving Jimmy 1.
Jimmy 1 was really like, I imagine Jimmy Olsen. He was like nerdy and...
Does it hold up? Maybe because it's a classic story like Superman, and it's based on such a great comic book. But does it hold up watching it with your kids?
Yeah, it took the pilot's 2 full episodes together, so Superman doesn't show up until the end of the episode. But once they saw that Superman was in this show, they wanted to watch the next episode. Now, shows are so educational now that it took me a while to explain them. This wasn't about Lewis and Clark and their expedition. Because there's like hilarious. They learn about that. But all is there
like smoking in it? Because I feel like I showed Chipmunk Adventure to Ari, and that's from the 80s, and like the bad guys are just sitting like on lounge chairs smoking, and I was like, oh my god, you'd never see that in a kids movie now.
I think it was.
I was like, Ari, smoking's bad. These are the bad guys.
I think it was a network TV show, so I don't think that by then I don't think you were seeing guys smoke so much. But it was so much fun to watch them on. Now, there's another one that I think it was a Friday night show.
It was.
Friday night, 9 or 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
And that was Picket Fences, starring Thomas Skerritt.
Which I see that it's only on for 4 years. In my mind, that shows 10 years, 10 seasons.
And also, Mom definitely let me watch that with you guys, like with her.
And Lauren Holly was in it, and Kostas Mandelor.
And I did not know what it was about at all. But I just didn't want to go to bed.
It was just about a town. It was about, what was it called? Rome, Wisconsin, I think. I think that's what it was.
I remember that.
It was about this town where just quirky things happened. Yeah, Rome, Wisconsin, and it was about the sheriff, and they would tackle these. It was another David E. Kelley show, and they would tackle some pretty heavy issues. Like, I remember the little kid at one point announces that he's atheist. Oh no, he not that he's atheist. The dad announces that he's agnostic, and the kid has this whole like faith episode about trying to figure out what he believes in. And anyways, what I loved most about the show, though, is that, if I'm pretty sure, first of all, there was Fivish Finkel, the old Jewish actor, played Douglas Wamba, the defense attorney. Ray Walston, who we just talked about because he was in Ski Patrol, played Judge Bone, and they would talk about how, like, he didn't, like, follow any real laws, and so it was like, our town follows Bone's law. And then a young, not very well-known Don Cheadle was the district attorney.
I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember that, and I think it was so cool. There's a bunch of other people. If you look on the internet, you can see that Zelda Rubinstein, who was in Poltergeist, was in it. You also had Marlee Matlin, played the mayor of the town. Amy Aquino, who is now in Bosch, was
very
on it.
90s.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Black apparently appeared in the show. I mean, this is some really. I'd love to go back and try to watch some of it, but that was a big one.
This is also another one that kind of fits in that sort of like a bit too dramatic probably for our age, but it's disqualified because it started in '89. His Life Goes On.
No, I was just, it's so weird.
They remind me of each
I remember
other.
watching that. What?
I was Googling that as you guys were talking about
89.
About
but I remember watching that with Mom.
Patty LuPone.
Patty LuPone.
I remember watching that with Mom and being like, I'm not sure this is, I don't understand what's happening.
They dealt with some very heavy stuff in that.
Heavy stuff.
But that was part of what made that show interesting, is they were willing to talk about things that no one was talking about. Another one that was a mom show, 90 to 95, which I've talked about before, which I own all the DVDs of, is Northern Exposure. And
Mom loved that show.
That was really you and Mom, though, because that must have been on too late for me and Becky.
Everyone should go and look up the episode, and I forget the name of it, or where they have to. It's something for Uncle Manny, I think is what it's called. And I watched it with my kids this year, which is about them building the minion for Dr. Fleischman's uncle when he dies, and they need to find Jews in a Jewish community out in the middle of nowhere in Alaska. But it was, typical fish out of water show, and Mom just loved it. But it was very weird. A lot of supernatural elements to it. I think it's a beautiful show. I think it's.
And you have is that not where John Corbett?
Yeah, John Corbett from Sex and the City.
Is Sex and the City? Yeah, exactly, and like a million other things. My Big Fat Greek Wedding. All the other stuff he's in. That's where he got his start.
He's the handsome radio host.
Right,
no,
but if you look at him, he's ageless, that man. Yeah. Ageless. He's like the J-Lo of
Well, or like a Paul Rudd.
Yeah, he is some Paul
Rudd
Ruddian genes or something
Yeah.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one which I didn't see a lot of, but it's got Chickless in it, and it's called The Commish.
I don't know it.
Where this guy would go on to play the Shield, and it was about this like rotund police commissioner who solved crimes, and liked to eat hoagies. And it was on for 5 years. I have no idea the show was on for like 5 years or 4 seasons or something like that.
Because in the 90s, remember, you just had to flip through and watch what was on a Wednesday night or whatever. You had no choice.
That's fair, but they were
But
like...
many of these shows were picked up.
People pitched The Commish. It'll be called The Commish, and it'll be about the police commissioner solving crimes. And Ken Lerner, who is the father of Sam Lerner, who plays Jeff Schwartz on... The Goldbergs. Ken Lerner plays Jeff Schwartz's father on The Goldbergs. Actor who's been around forever. The first thing I ever saw him in, I will never forget this, was an episode of The Commish from the first season where he played this like predator, like a child predator
I know.
teacher, and like he seems like the most jovial, funny man in real life. But that is the first thing.
Didn't you bring that up to?
I did bring that up to Sam. And he was funny about it. Because Sam is such a nice, cool dude that he has good sense of humor. All right. Of the ones we just mentioned, Lois and Clark, Picket Fences, Northern Exposure, The Commish. If you could bring one of these back right now, however you want to bring it back, reboot, same cast, continuation, reboot, revival, whatever you want to call it, which one would you bring back? And some of these have, I don't want to say chances, like there has been discussion about a Northern Exposure reboot. But which one would be the one you would...
Obviously not The Commish, because it probably should never have been made in the first place.
I would like to see The Commish crossed over with The Shield, where Chickless plays two characters. One is the jovial Commish, and the other is Vic Mackey, who now has to work for the Commish, who's like this honorable guy. I would... two double Chickless.
I would say that, like, probably the one who has the best chances is Picket Fences. That's like, This Is Us, but in one timeline. And people love that shit. Like, that would get, like, eaten up. Because I would not touch Lois and Clark with a 10-foot pole. There's too much superhero shit out there. And they would never make it as good.
On Supergirl on the CW, one of the cool things about it is Dean Cain is cast as the father on Earth, like the adoptive father of Supergirl.
Okay, so he's just in a show about Superman. Yeah. Great. It's not a sequel, or
I feel like Northern Exposure did the fish out of water story best, and if I was going to bring any one of them back, I'd like to see that because I think they've done that best. And like, I don't need Virgin River on Netflix. I'd like a little Northern Exposure.
I would like Northern Exposure, but we could call it Northern Hearts.
I know, and it's just a vehicle for you to get. What's her name?
What's
Joel
her name
Fleischman, Rob Morrow, and
who's your girl?
Rachel Bilson from Heart of Dixie. But now she has a family, so it's like many years later, she's got a family. So it's her. So that's why it's called Northern Hearts, and it's Joel Fleischman and her going back up to Alaska. We can finish his story with Maggie, and it can be about this. I have no idea what it would be about, but that's Northern Hearts.
That sounds like the best
coming soon on CBS.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what are we going to do now with this gigantic
comedy
list of 90s?
Very long.
The funniest thing is that
we each picked
we clearly were too young to watch too many dramas because all of our choices are comedies. We could tell we were in elementary.
Cooper. Oh, I loved that show.
Oh, do you remember the episode where he plays for the Golden State Warriors?
No, I don't remember any of them, but I remember it.
So I just took our list randomly.
Loved it.
I just took our list randomly, okay? And I divided it in blocks of 4. And we're just going to do a Final Four competition here, okay? We're going to vote. Each of us are going to vote in each round. And we're going to have the winner of the shows stuck in the 90s, okay? I'm sure there's going to be some controversy. And we're going to do this live.
The problem is so many of these shows are very dear to my heart.
I know,
but maybe how your kids are going to feel about
to talk about.
If we look at the first block, I feel like News Radio is a show, like I didn't watch it at the time, but I bet I could go back now and watch it and would think it's pretty genius.
So in the first block here, we have News Radio, Blossom, because also it's interesting because these are all differently seated because they're the ones we came up with first. So we have News Radio, Blossom, 90 to 95. News Radio was 95 to 99. Step by Step, 91 to 98. 91 to 98.
The show was on for
and Hanging with Mr. Cooper. So I have love for every one of these shows. I mean, Blossom, I remember watching and then talking about at school the next day.
But then don't you feel like ultimately Blossom is just overrated?
I don't think it was over. I think it's
I don't
rated.
know, the hats. Don't you remember her hats?
Yeah, but I'm saying, I feel like the first... Wait, what does Chuck Klosterman say?
He has this concept of some things are overrated, some things are underrated, and some things are just rated. I think Blossom is rated.
Well, I feel like the first 1 or 2 seasons of Blossom with the hats, and it's cute, and then like by the end with the brother and the addiction stories, and we're trying it, that thing that all those 90s sitcoms did, where they then tried to have like an arc of really heavy, serious
you're underestimating the impact Joey Lawrence had on the 90s.
Joey Lawrence is in 2 of the shows on this.
Because I watched Brotherly Love, so I do not, I estimate
there would be none of that without Blossom.
So I will say, though, News Radio, which I still watch constantly, Josh, our dear friend, he bought me for my wedding the entire DVD set of News Radio, and we used to watch it. We had a VHS that Ed made, and we just watch it in college all the time when we didn't have cable. We'd just be like, we don't need cable. We can just watch News Radio. And Ash from the Goldnerds would agree. News Radio is timeless. It's still perfect, that show. Even the weird last season with John Lovitz because Phil Hartman got killed is really good. So for me, in this one, there is no debate. The one that comes out of this round is News Radio. How about you guys?
I mean, it has to be Blossom for me because I in that timeline, I wasn't watching News Radio. Although I'm sure probably now I would appreciate that more than any of them. But Blossom, I never missed an episode.
Are we rating
pick your top?
So we got to pick your top
one.
We're
not rating. You're just picking one.
You're picking your top. Wait, you're picking your top as if you're in the 90s or currently in your life?
No.
Whenever. Just one in your life.
You can do
90s.
It now.
So, no, because it's a very big difference. I have to imagine it's the 90s, and I have to pick which of these shows.
You just have to pick which. It's a tournament. It's just pick one.
Ugh, because I
picked News Radio because
realistically, you know
you're going to pick Step by Step.
8-year-old me loved Step by Step, but adult me would be more interested in watching News Radio.
Okay.
You have to pick Step by Step. You have to be true to your heart.
Step by Step.
Okay.
But I think ultimately I hated that show.
That messes this up because we each voted for a
the
different
show.
one. That messes it up because we each voted for a different one.
Okay, now we have to buy them.
Okay. Well, we'll figure it out later.
We'll see after.
Okay. In the next.
I really hate Step by Step now.
The next one's easy. Fresh Prince was the next one.
I have a different
kind of way. The people
you can't have a different answer for that one.
Make it better. Am I singing 2 different songs?
I don't know, but the next block is.
Yeah. If you pick the John Larroquette show, I'm gonna punch you in a tit. Like,
yeah,
that's so nerdy and annoying. Like, you have to pick Fresh Prince.
One is Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which again, phenomenon when that started. Phenomenon. Every single person.
It's such a soft spot for Brotherly Love.
Viv 1, not Viv 2. No offense to her.
Well, that's it. That's one of my big things. Is that Viv 1, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Viv 1? Yeah, maybe. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Viv 2? I don't know. Brotherly Love, starring all of the Lawrence brothers, or 3 of them.
There are only 3.
No, I don't know. Maybe I didn't know if it was like Culkins, where there are still some Culkins
or
living under the stairs.
There's just extra Hemsworths out there.
Yeah, totally. Right? I thought there was just the 2, and then there's this other one apparently. There's Chris and there's Liam, right?
There's one, and then there's a third one who's like short. I feel so bad for him. The other 2 are 7 feet tall. This guy's just like an easy 5'10". So like, he's the little one in that family. I feel so bad for him.
All right, Brotherly Love. Then the John Larroquette show.
Can we just say one of the greatest bits of all time was when on The Good Place, with the dates a Hemsworth.
And it's like, it's like one of the extra Hemsworths that they have.
And it's obviously not the actual extra Hemsworth, but that whole bit is so brilliant. It's such a great show.
So anyway, the John Larroquette show, where John Larroquette plays a recovering addict who now owns a convenience store in a bus station. And
really? That's what it's about?
Yeah, and his sponsor was played by David Crosby, music legend.
Do you want to just see how nerdy Shy is? This is
Howie and I Loved this show.
Okay, so the answer is Fresh Prince. Moving on to the next.
So there you go. Fresh Prince. Definitely.
You get overtaken.
The last one was Home Improvement, which none of us are gonna pick.
Oh God, I hate that show.
When it was on, I probably would watch it, but no.
I feel like in peak JTT days, I could watch an episode or two for him, but like that's about it. That's a painful show.
So this is how this goes. Becky and Lily picked Fresh Prince, so it goes on to the next round. Okay.
Oh God, we're gonna be here for I don't think I have this much time.
No, hold on. All right, so it's gonna get easier. The next one,
is like
Wings, Mad About You, Caroline in the Cities.
Oh, I loved Caroline in the City.
Wings,
that show.
I loved Caroline in the City.
I also loved Mad About You, but not as much as Caroline in the City.
Ellen.
But I loved Ellen.
I liked Ellen too, but
I can tell you, I can remember more storylines from Ellen than I can remember Caroline in the City.
So Ellen is obviously the more important show by a lot. But I would say the fan favorite I had, like the one, because remember, you couldn't just TiVo shows.
We know,
right? You didn't know when things are on. No, it was Caroline in the City. I loved Caroline in the City.
I watched all 4 of those shows, which makes me wonder how much TV was I watching if I had time to get Wings in my schedule.
I watched like a little.
Years. It was for 7 years.
I watched a little bit of Wings. Wings was about an airport in Nantucket, and then you had John Larroquette around the same time, which was about a bus station. There was a lot of stuff about people just commuting.
There's just easy sets to make that everybody was always in the same place.
So Caroline in the City is the winner.
Night Court isn't on here.
Night Court started in the 80s. It started in the 80s.
Deep in the 80s.
But the John Larroquette show was his show after Night Court. So, Caroline in the City is the show I have great affection for, also because her best friend character was in Cats. She was a Broadway actor, and she would show up in the Cats outfit anymore. But I'm gonna
it was a brilliant show.
But I can't not give it to Ellen because of.
Well, you can't look back and now say because of the societal impact that show had, you're picking it.
I can, right?
You can't. No, it has to be in the 90s.
Right. In the 90s, the show I watched
these shows are all on different channels, and you have to pick one to watch right now.
Caroline in the City, I loved Leah Thompson. She was adorable. She continues to be adorable.
So we're choosing Caroline in the City then.
Yeah. Okay, so we all are choosing it? We all That is
Ellen was great. I remember watching it. I loved it. But I also remember when I got serious, and I was like, I'm too young for this. And I love Caroline in the City.
Okay.
I just love that she was a cartoonist and like her drafting table. That was so cool.
Her apartment. I remember her apartment.
Yeah. Lots of light. That's very nice.
All right. Dinosaurs.
Oh God. This next group is
This is a really strange group. This is like when we were really like Googling. Not some of them are really well known. But
we sat around as a family and watched Dinosaurs together.
Dinosaurs, The Nanny, The Larry Sanders Show, which I did not see till I was in my 30s, and then Martin, which is the original vehicle of Martin Lawrence.
Right, definitely The Nanny.
Yeah, The Nanny for sure.
I think culturally speaking, for us, The Nanny was the show because you had to watch that with Mom, and it was funny. I don't remember ever what happened at the end, but Fran Drescher, national treasure, also star of UHF.
Yeah, national treasure for sure. They're bringing back The Nanny.
Oh,
Who's playing her? There was like a whole thing.
It's not Fran Drescher? Is Fran Drescher now the rich lady and she has to get a nanny because the guy died?
That would be great.
That would be a great story. She's now the old... Yeah, or she's the grandma? I don't know. Okay, The State, which I didn't even see. Only kids talked about that at camp. They were like, oh my God, The State is so cool. It's the coolest comedy. And I never got to see it till I was a grown-up. The State, but it has a lot of people. All the people that were in Party Down, Becky.
Mm-hmm. I love that show. Sorry, just Nanny's not being rebooted. It was going to be, and she was going to be in it, but it's been canceled.
Oh, okay. So The State, In Living Color, Pinky and the Brain, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine.
Oh God, none of them.
Pinky and the Brain.
I guess Pinky and the Brain. I don't think I watched any of those.
I didn't watch that much of Living. I watched Living Color, but not enough. I think I was too young.
Probably. I mean, I don't even know what The State is. I've never heard of it.
It was a sketch show.
I didn't watch Living Color. I did not like
In Living
science
Color
fiction.
is Jim Carrey.
That's what I said.
And the Wayans. Jim Carrey was one of the guys. But in Living Color was the Wayans brothers show. It's like... Yeah. It was a big deal.
Yeah, I didn't watch it as a kid, and I was not into science fiction, and I guess maybe Pinky and the Brain, but I thought it was so kind of like weird and gross.
We watch it now with the kids. It's so cool. It's a much smarter show than it was at its time. I'm gonna push for In Living Color because it's iconic and important.
Yeah, I feel like that's what needs to be on the list.
Okay, all right. So now what we have left is of this completely unscientific group. You just got to pick one. Okay, News Radio, Fresh Prince, Caroline in the City, The Nanny, and In Living Color.
Fresh Prince, hands down.
All right, Lily goes Fresh Prince. I go News Radio. That's still one of my top shows of all time.
Fresh Prince.
Oh, all right, so we wasted everybody's time by going through those others. Now, the 90s was also...
No, we brought up a lot of shows people forgot about.
That's true. The 90s was... I have no idea where you can watch these. I think you have to find them on YouTube. And then...
Every man for himself.
A lot of shows were one and done in the 90s, and in those days, if a show was on and it was a new show and ABC was telling you this is the hot new show of the season, I believed them. It wasn't now where I can Google the ratings and see if it's really worth it and check to see the Hollywood gossip.
There's so many one and dones now on so many streaming services that nobody gives a shit. But these one and dones, I feel like many I've never heard of. Some of them I have, and I'm like, that was only 1 year because people still watch them.
So I'm gonna rattle off the one and dones and then just expound a little bit on one that was important to you. So My So-Called Life, Twin Peaks, Saved by the Bell, The College Years, The Dana Carvey Show, Nightmare Cafe, Tequila and Benetti, which was about a guy and a dog solving crimes, The Hat Squad, which is about three brothers who wore fedoras who solved crimes.
Again, almost certain could come back around 30 years later.
Tag Team, which was actually just a pilot that was one episode starring Roddy Piper and Jesse Ventura as former wrestlers who become cops and solve crimes. Phenom, which was the one about the tennis with William Devane as the tennis coach. And subject of our IGTV recording, Cop Rock.
Cop Rock.
The musical police show.
I am shocked that only got one season. I feel like that's his cats of TV shows.
Maybe. I mean, maybe.
I feel like he got that one shot, but thank God there were no memes then. I mean, imagine what would have happened to him. That show's such a bad idea. Again, 100% would be successful today.
Which of these is your biggest deal?
My So-Called Life.
My So-Called Life. I was deeply obsessed with I didn't watch it the year it was on. I don't think I knew it existed, but I also knew it existed a little bit, and it was about 10 years later that I became deeply, deeply obsessed with this show.
I watched Saved by the Bell College for sure, but
I've watched that whole season multiple times.
How hard would it be for them to get Claire Danes and Jared Leto to do a special?
Well, Jared Leto, I believe, slightly more difficult than Claire Danes.
I mean, I guess she's on Homeland. She wins Emmys every year.
She's done with Homeland now, so...
Maybe she'll do it. Everyone's doing a reboot.
Friends are doing a reboot. That's huge news that we didn't even bring up.
Friends? They're not doing
No, it's not a reboot. It's
a reunion show. They just talk
about it. A reunion
it.
special. It's just it's unscripted. What does that mean? They're just going to hang out on a couch?
Yeah, they're going to hang out on a couch. It's like an episode of a podcast that I'm sure they're all being paid $1 million or more each to show up for.
Paid, I think it's $3 million each or something.
$3 million each.
I think, or maybe it's
probably
more.
An hour and a half of their time.
To hang out with people that they have dinner with once
all
a week
the time.
anyway.
And remember being like, oh my God, can you believe Ross had so many wives? Yeah. Just say things that we all know about.
But I have to say, if it's like the Love is Blind special and you don't give me some additional footage or stories or behind the scenes things, I'm not interested. Because the Love is Blind reunion episode, all they did was show humiliating clips that were amazing from the show and then be like, how embarrassed are you that happened? But we're all like, yeah, obviously we know they're super embarrassed. Give us something new. Show us the things you didn't show us. So, a little controversial.
They were like, we're spending a lot of money on expensive things like The Irishman, so we need to do something for like the equivalent of craft services, like the equivalent of craft services on one day of The Irishman they use to make these reality shows. So for me, it's going to be the Dana Carvey show, which I know Becky watched. Did you watch Too Funny to Fail, the documentary on Hulu? About the Dana Carvey show. The Dana Carvey show, when it came on, starring Dana Carvey, Robert Smigel, and then unknown Stephen Colbert and Steve Carell. As a kid, we loved Dana Carvey so much, and he was so funny and so iconic on SNL that when he was getting his own show, I remember thinking as a kid, being like, nothing's going to stop Dana Carvey now. He's going to be the most famous man. And that shows...
What was that movie we loved with him?
Opportunity Knocks.
Oh,
I
love that movie.
Where he lip syncs, where he karaoke's Born to Be Wild. No, Born to Be Wild.
Born to Be Wild, yes.
It's amazing. So, to me, that show was going to be genius, and it was hilarious. As a kid, I found it so funny, and I remember watching it with Mom live, and Mom being like, huh. So this is what the kids are into these days. Like, she was talking to me about it and sort of trying to understand. Like, Mom's such a good sport. She was trying to understand the jokes. And make sense of it.
She still tries to understand the jokes.
And
love her.
And she was just so she would, if that was what we were watching, Mom would have watched it every week with us. And I remember every episode was sponsored by a different company. So the first episode was the Taco Bell Dana Carvey show, then it was something else, then it was Mountain Dew, and then it was Mug Root Beer, and then 2 weeks later it was the Diet Mug Root Beer Dana Carvey show. And I remember thinking, oh boy, they're having trouble with sponsors if they're only able to get done. But I feel like when you think about who was watching, which is me, the root beer drinking crowd were the people who liked that show. People who were like, I don't want Coke. I don't want Sprite. I want root beer. Are the people who were like...
It's literally... That's the original algorithm.
Yeah.
That Netflix is based on.
And
that's your algorithm.
I do recommend everybody go and see on Hulu. It's an hour and a half. It's so funny. It's so good.
So worth it. It was very endearing. Very endearing.
Too Funny to Fail. Fantastic. Yeah. And then go out and buy the show on DVD, because they have the show on DVD and it's amazing.
All right.
And you can watch the famous unaired 8th episode.
So in addition to seeing that, are we doing
what have you been watching, Beck? What else
I watched last night, I watched Bombshell, the movie about...
We were deciding what to watch,
Richard
Jewell or Bombshell, and I didn't know what you guys were watching, so we watched Richard Jewell. I would have watched Bombshell if I knew you were watching it.
I think I would have watched Richard Jewell. Listen, I generally liked it. I think there's like a few choices I don't agree with. Generally, I liked it. The acting was really good. They have every single freaking actor on the planet is in it. Everyone is in it. Every single teeny tiny character is played by someone that you recognize. But I will say
sometimes that takes me out of a movie.
It takes you out of the movie, but a lot of things do. But I think while it had a lot of pluses, I think ultimately it was not hard enough on Roger Ailes. It really felt like they weirdly let him off easy, and it very much feels like it's written by a man writing about a woman's experience, how a man presumes a woman's experience being sexually harassed is, and you can feel it while you're watching it. And then the last thing about it is that I'm pretty sure they definitely describe sexual assault incidences in the movie, but continue to just refer to it as sexual harassment. And I'm like, yeah, but that's assault. So there was some deeply flawed things, but overall interesting and really, really well acted. I would say it's a rent. Why not? And then Miri and I watched 101 Dalmatians, the original animated film, and if you haven't watched that in a while, it's beautiful. It's genius.
Really?
It is true.
You're a big Pongo fan? You love Pongo?
Pongo and Perdita. It's just, the animation is so beautiful. It's real. I don't know. It's so much character and charm and life in
Mommy,
the drawing.
Hungry. But Rolly, you've just had your supper.
I'm hungry, Mother.
I remember we had one of those golden books just about a part of the plot, and the dogs would watch Rin Tin Tin or something like that. They were watching a dog show. Were they watching one of them?
Yeah, they watch. That's when they're puppies. They're watching a dog show.
But what characters are you following in that movie if there were 101 Dalmatians?
You're following the core from Pongo and Perdita's litter.
Oh, and how many are those?
15, but you're not. But there's really only like 5 of them that you're really following.
And
there's
they have another 90
Because
dogs.
they save.
Yeah.
Oh, because
another
she's trying to make the Dalmatian stuff.
Right.
So that's the 101.
Right. They're saving.
And they all live in her house at the end?
Yes.
Well, they're going to have a Dalmatian plantation.
Is that real?
It's a song.
It's a song that Roger writes. Why? We'll have a Dalmatian plantation. And he's like a...
And she didn't get scared when Cruella de Vil's eyes go crazy swirly. I always got so scared at that part.
I'm not going to lie. We only watched the first, 15 minutes. We watched until the puppies were born, and then we turned it off. We didn't want the part.
The movie's over. She's like, I love 101 Dalmatians.
She's like, oh my God. She's like, little baby doggies. This is amazing.
Yeah,
and then we turned
it's
it
just
off.
a supercut of it. My kids watched Benji again yesterday, speaking of dog movies, from 1974. Do you know that? So first of all, a lot of that movie is just home movie slow motion of dogs, of Benji and the other dog walking around, set to the same 70s music song. And
hilarious.
It was the 9th highest grossing movie in 1974. It was 3 behind The Godfather Part 2. It was made on a budget of $500,000, and it made $38 or $39 million. Because we were watching it with other friends who were over, and they were like, what the heck is this thing? It looks like it was filmed on somebody's camcorder. And I'm like, I'm telling you, this is an iconic movie. And it was.
I don't mean to rush us, but I have a baby with a giant poo diaper sitting on me who needs a nap.
I'll go next. Richard Jewell we saw last night. Always amazing. Sam Rockwell, Paul Walter Hauser, Kathy Bates, John Hamm, Olivia Wilde.
How could that be bad?
Ace performances. It wasn't bad. It was really good. I thought for what was a pretty slow movie that doesn't it's not a legal thriller. It is really just a telling of the story of what happened to this man and how he was sort of mistreated in the process. But there isn't a big reveal. You know all along he didn't do it. And they don't try to make it that kind of a story. But the acting between him and Sam Rockwell in particular is absolutely fantastic. It's totally worth a watch. It's definitely a rent, I think, but excellent. And then there's this other movie I've been watching in pieces, but I finally finished. I had to track down a DVD of it online, which is The Life and Death of Peter Sellers, starring Jeffrey Rush, and it was an HBO movie. And the movie itself, for a 2-hour movie, it's kind of slow. But Jeffrey Rush's performance as Peter Sellers, he plays all of the parts that Peter Sellers played at some point in the movie.
Wow.
And there are certain scenes where he takes on the roles of characters from his life as an additional gimmick in the movie. So there'll be a big scene with his mother, and then with an actor that's playing the mother, and then he'll play the mother for a scene and do a monologue about their relationship. And as far as I'm concerned, Jeffrey Rush was amazing, but the movie makes him really despicable. Makes Peter Sellers seem really despicable. All right, over to Lily. What have you been watching?
Not very much. Just working.
Well, we have a trade.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I guess I've been watching Stumptown while you watch The Politician, so I'll have to report. I'm on episode 4 now, sir.
The Politician so far is a lot of fun. Or not fun. No, it's not fun. It is fun. It's intriguing. It's intriguing, and it's really beautifully done. And all of the acting and everything is very excellent. It reminds me a lot of Election. I don't know if it should, but it reminds me of that movie Election with Matthew Broderick and Reese Witherspoon, right? And so it's that kind of feel. Those movies give me anxiety, so this show gives me anxiety, but I want to watch it, and I like it, and Ben Platt's amazing, and Gwyneth Paltrow's amazing in it.
I will say that I started this new show on Netflix that just came out. I'm not okay with this.
Oh.
I think that's what it's called.
So it's not.
Wait, I want to hear what you think of Stumptown.
It's fun. It's great. You know what, Shai? It's very serendipitous that Mom's here to watch with me.
Perfect show to watch with.
So
yeah, I think it's much more better enjoyed with Mom. Wondering listeners what our mom is like. Just watch that show and know she'd enjoy it.
But I'm curious. I'd be curious, Beck. I'm not sure there's a show for Shy, but Beck, I think if you can take yourself away from Love Is Blind for a few minutes and watch.
It's already over. I watched all the episodes. Okay, now I'm just looking at the memes on Instagram.
So if you can watch I'm Not Okay With This, I'd love you to tell me what you think. The episodes are only 19 minutes. So
the shorter the better. When did they bring back that show special that like the episodes are like 11 minutes or something?
Right. But yeah, it's like a teen coming of age kind of drama type thing, but it's interesting with like supernatural stuff in it.
So with that, any other additional shout-outs? That's some interesting stuff.
There's been a lot of shout-outs in this episode.
I mean,
right?
people could get in a time machine now and just watch shows that only existed in the 90s.
I want to give a shout-out to my dear friend Melanie Lubin, who she and I both, we watched My So-Called Life together, and that was like a very special moment in our friendship and in my history as a television watcher. So shout out to Melanie Lubin and our shared love for My So-Called Life.
Okay.
Nice.
Lil, how about you?
Shout out to the Rents who are here. They brought me bagels and they brought me Philadelphia soft pretzels made by our cousin Mindy. So they get all the shout outs for bringing me yummy American food.
Speaking of cousin Mindy, her sister Shelly got
Shelly
engaged to the amazing Devin. We love Devin. He's fantastic.
Huge fans of the pod.
Huge fans of the pod. Like we don't
Big
want the pod to
supporters of us
take
at
credit.
The Comic-Con.
We don't want the pod to take credit for them getting engaged, but like
I would
it's
say,
probably what was playing in their car when they drove away from their engagement.
Yeah, I think they were walking, but I think that the first time they got in the car together as an engaged couple, they were probably listening to us.
Yeah, that's probably what.
So huge excitement there for our cousins. And Becky had to step away to deal with some sort of like poo diaper situation. So we can wrap up for her.
All right, so you can follow Becky at PaperBKPrincess on Twitter and on Letterboxd. You can follow Lily.
Just keep going.
Oh, on Chichi K Gomez, which is CHIK Gomez on Twitter and Letterboxd. And Lily will tell you, rate us, review us on wherever you listen to podcasts. It's free and super helpful.
It's like giving us a hug.
It's like giving us a hug.
But only if it's 5 stars. I don't want your 4-star hug. 5 stars.
Say that 4-star. That's like the Uber drivers who take me around that give me not 5 stars, which is more often than I would.
What did I fart in your car? Like, what could I possibly have done? I don't sit in the back seat quietly.
I don't know because
not get.
I don't know. I'm pretty quiet in Ubers. I really don't like to talk in them, but things happen. Like the other night, our Uber got there and we were going out with other people, and Allie took like a really long, like the Uber guy was ready to drive away.
She took a really long fart.
No, he took a really long time to get out to the car, and he was like very upset. And one of us would arrive.
Isn't Allie not allowed?
Minutes.
Didn't she get her account blocked? Isn't she not? Don't you have to like use in your family your account because she has such a bad rating? Am I making that up? Isn't that a thing?
No, that's Airbnb. Where we used it once, and the guy blamed the kids for messing up his house, and even though we paid extra and we didn't have to, he still slammed us on Airbnb, so we can't use it anymore. And with that,
I will just say,
sorry.
Oh no, I will just say one more thing, and I'm gonna do this an epic shout out episode. Epic shout out to Gato because Mom helped pitch in to get me an air fryer when she was here. So we've been air frying all day long, and I feel like I've heard from a lot of people, but his post on Twitter pushed me over the edge. And I was like, oh, I gotta get one. And it's quite delicious.
That's amazing. I'd love to hear more about what you're frying.
Nuggets, sweet potato, regular potato.
Cereal? Can you fry cereal?
Fry anything.
Put some Rice Krispies in there?
Yeah. Ooh, I bet you can make a Rice Krispie square fried. I bet you could do a lot.
Well,
apparently you can make pizza in there too.
Ooh, fried pizza. That is probably
I'm telling you.
Okay.
Possibility is great.
The theme music of What Does It Eat will kick in, and we will dance our way into the night. Love you.
Love you. Bye.